So we're live. Namaste. Good evening, Anita and Siddharth, and everyone who's joined us on Facebook Live. It is a pleasure having you with us on the Experience School Conversations with Inspiring Authors. And we look forward to learning with you, Anita and Siddharth. Welcome once again to the Author Experience Conversations.
Thank you.
Good to be with you, Jerry. Welcome to everybody. Greetings of the new year.
And happy New Year to all of you, yes.
From both of us. And we hope it's going to be a better year with hopefully the pandemic clouds clearing a bit, but that's being optimistic. We must hope for the best, but stay safe, stay warm, and stay hopeful.
Right. So we're here to discuss Anita and Siddharth's book, Indian Century, which they will tell us more about a little later. And, we have the author experience conversations every Sunday, Anita and Siddharth. Okay. And my basic intent of starting this was because I said, at least in the pandemic, let's get some people into the habit of reading. Because I always believe that the best gift that you can give to your children or to any friends of yours is a book and the habit of reading, because you can travel places just by reading a book. So welcome once again, and Anita and Siddharth, like we do with all our authors to begin with. If we got rid of all your titles and laurels that you earned over the years as producer, director, quizmaster, all the awards that you won, all the things that you do as people who are kind of trying to promote knowledge in the country and worldwide. And I asked both of you to just tell me who you truly are. I would request everyone to please put their audios on mute. Who you truly are. This is called the science of ontology. And, in the leadership learning programs, we do an assessment called Johari window, right? And the Johari window tells you that, there's so much more to explore about yourself because of all the treasures that we mine. The treasure that we often miss to mine is the treasure within the self, the human potential. So if I ask both of you to tell me 7 descriptors that define you best as human beings, as individuals, what would those 7 descriptors be? The descriptors could be verbs, adjectives, nouns, pronouns, roles, responsibilities, values, guiding principles that define you. So over to you, there could be one word or a set of words. So we'll start with Anita. Over to you, Anita.
I think it's a signal is frozen. Oh,
my
no,
God.
there she's back.
It's always difficult to describe oneself.
Right.
But yeah, I think primarily to who I am and what I think and what my beliefs are, I would say extremely hardworking person.
Hardworking, that's a great trait to have. Hardworking, sincere.
I think a people's person, definitely.
People's person, because you also have a role in HR, is what I read in your profile.
Yes. Well, yeah, I've been doing and pretty self-learned and self-taught rather. Right. Everything else, having been a journalist before.
Right.
So in a sense, I learned on the job and I learned and then put systems in place. So I think 2 or 3 things that define one's viewpoint. I think I'm very, very sensitive towards children and education and teaching them values. I think one of the things that I actually, when my kids, I brought up my kids, I think I was very particular about how they were brought up. So values, yes. Those are instinctive almost. And I think, I'm not being hugely ambitious or in the way we see ambition now, but yes, doing better every day and making, really looking inwards and making yourself better and better in whatever way possible. I think that's also a pretty ingrained trait. And I think, I don't know whether I enumerated about 5, 6 of them.
Those are 5. I'm counting and I'm noting it
mostly
down.
I think
yes.
Okay. So I think most of these are compounded in organizationally. I would say that's a big skill set, that I have or have always had, and except that one is put it into practice as one went along.
Right.
So yes, highly organized person. And it sounds like I'm praising myself, but I think
No,
down
that's
the line.
that's the whole idea.
So I think one of the things that I maybe used to be a little impatient earlier, but I think I've learned to tame that as well in a big way of having worked at oneself.
Right.
So yeah, I think pretty much sums up a lot of things that one
Excellent. So those
feels or
are
sees myself in, doing.
brilliant. So those are seven, and I'm very happy that you started with hardworking, because we've created this entire learning self-help book series called the Mojosh Inspirator, and we
Yes,
took a lot of learning from several gurus who've been teaching over the years,
yeah,
including Stephen Covey, and one of the gurus that we learned from is John Wooden. Now, John Wooden was
okay,
a basketball player and a basketball coach, and he
yeah,
created something called the Success Pyramid.
yeah,
And the success pyramid, the two cornerstones are industriousness and enthusiasm. That if
yeah,
these two cornerstones are missing, because hard
yeah,
work cannot be replaced by smart work. And in today's world
absolutely.
and day, unfortunately, everyone uses this thing: don't work hard, work smart, jugaad lagao. And I
Yes,
think
yes,
that's where the world
yes,
is going wrong. and
yes.
and and you spoke about teaching children, and how you are very kind of focused on education and teaching children values. And I always say character rooted education is what is missing in most of the education systems, whether it's in India or the US and the world over. So what is that one?
Jerry, I think always I was pretty focused on the way I brought up. I was very particular about the way I brought up my children,
Right.
despite the fact that we were at that particular point surrounded by, Siddharth was, featured and it was the media, and, like you were constantly in people's faces. And I think it was very, very important for me to bring up my children in a way that they were, had very, very good, strong value bases.
Very
You
nice.
know, I think nothing connected with, okay, you give them something and make them happy and leave them. I think I was a very, very focused mother, and I think a lot of the times what happens in most schools, and I feel there is a huge requirement in schools to have value based, or have one sort of value based education, which is teaches, because it's more to do with the parents and then it is to do with the child. And I think I always go back to that and
Absolutely. And
say,
I completely agree
I
with you on
wish
that.
there were these, proper classes where, parents were taught, you know, um, that values will stand you for the rest of your life. Though no matter how much money or anything that you might throw at your kids, it's never going to do it. So I think I was very, very particular about that aspect, and I'm grateful and thankful that my kids have turned out the way they have. Um, I think this, when we're talking about values, and I think it's fundamentally respect for yourself, respect other people, um, and know that money can't buy you everything. Know that if you're thrown into situations where you have to be able to survive, you have to be able to do whatever you can. You can't sit on somebody else's shoulders and pretend that, okay, you are the one who made it. I think those are very, very important uh, you know things for me as far as children are concerned. And I'm constantly, I read a lot about, how kids have gone, or in terms of value basis, and people, you're not realizing the systems and societies you're now getting are bereft of most of it, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you are going to get a society which is,
Which is a reflection of
not,
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
And we completely agree with you, because we are on the same page. And everything that you said, Anita, is music to my ears, because what we've started is, we started something called the Rex Karmaville Global Scholar Fellowship and the
Okay.
Rex Karmaville Global Youth Fellowship, where we focus
Okay.
on character-based education.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
while we mostly focus on IQ, we don't focus on EQ or the spiritual lessons. And when I say spiritual, nothing to do with religion. I'm absolutely against religions, and I don't believe in any
Absolutely.
kind of
Same
God.
here.
And one of
Yeah.
the biggest intelligences that schools, colleges, and
Mm.
your top Ivy League institutions have not focused on is moral intelligence. And there's very little
Absolutely.
written about this also. So this is what we are taking into schools. And
Yeah.
we rolled this out in like a 200 schools already, and we plan to kind of cover the entire
Wow.
school base.
That's fantastic.
And that's the framework that we've created. It's called the Mojosh Inspirator, which is a combination of three
Yeah.
words: Mojo, Josh, and Inspirator. And I'll tell you more about that later. But I'm
Yes.
very happy
Yes.
that you're speaking the same language as us. So
Yeah.
Siddharth, over to you. What are the 7 descriptors that would define Siddharth Basu, the individual and the human being, in the best possible way?
I don't know if I can do a count and how far I'll get on that scale of 7.
Right.
Let's see where we started. Straight out of college, theater was my passion.
Theater.
As an actor, as a director, as somebody who was part of an ensemble. But one of the books that made a huge impression on me was a bachelor's getting out, was James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man.
Right.
Where, become the uncreated conscience of your race was the last line. Go forth for the millionth time and experience the reality of, what life is out there, and do it. So I think I would have, in the way artist in the broadest sense, somebody who sort of expresses not only the individual, but the social, cultural situation, reflects it, brings insights to it, does something that can change something, that can enlighten, that can make things better. So that was a starting point. But let's start counting now. I don't think I've become an artist in its own way, but our work, the thing that we've been doing all this life, involves a bit of art and a bit of science, in the sense of the precision of science and the art involving imagination, intuition, instinct of how to shape things, put them together. So let's begin with, I think I see myself primarily as a communicator.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one, hopefully a proficient one. Number 2, I think as somebody who I think is pretty determined. I like to see things through. One of the definitions of success people often ask, I think at its simplest, it's being able to define where you want to get and figure out how to get there.
Right. So you persevere, you don't give up.
No, I think I have that about me, that is there. You set your aims and you go there no matter what. Okay. 3, I think somebody with a troubled conscience, because of our times that we are living in, because of what I see around me, because the conscience is something that I want to sort of to reflect and to share, and hopefully to be provoking, thought-provoking, and to lead to more things. That's another thing that I think is there. One part of me, I think, over the years, having sort of directed and worked with teams, often with new teams, we worked in 9 languages across the country, making programs. And of course, in what we've done, scaling up projects, permissions, not permissions, projects and productions, slowly putting that all together. It's often with large teams. Typically on a big ticket show, your team can be 300 strong. So you have to sort of, get them all on the same page. You have to figure it out. Certain part of it is organization, putting things together. But part of it is also getting into, defining the mission, inspiring people, getting them to do the same thing, to contribute in their different ways. And which is why we called our company Synergy, which is that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Absolutely. Habit 7 from the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
Well, there you are. So to do that, I think one of the things that I've tried to be is effective as a teacher. How effective people who worked with me will be able to tell you, teacher, mentor, ideator, in that way. And in terms of ideation, you have to excite people with what you're thinking about, how you're figuring it out, and have to try and get the best out of them. That is one important thing, I think, to do. How many have I called out? 4, 5?
5.
Pi.
Synergy was the
Let's see.
fourth, and teacher, I'm counting.
6 and 7. I think a performer on stage certainly has to enjoy being a performer. Being a person on stage, I've never quite enjoyed being on the camera so much, because I become hyper conscious, and on the stage there's this immediate connect with people. On the camera it's not quite that, and then you see it, and then you see a sort of 100 errors, whereas the strength of the one-to-one, or let's put it differently, the immediacy of a stage production has its own electricity and immediacy and enjoyment, vibrance, which I enjoy. So I think performer is one thing, which is that when you're out there, hey, there are no retakes, go for it and do as well as you can. And finally, seven, what should I say about me? People have called me, I don't think always compliment in a complimentary way. They've called me a perfectionist. I like to get details. I'm a detail person. I believe God is in the details. I like to get all the details right, because I think the details are what add to the eventual impact. It's not just one thing. Put it all together and then it's there. I've counted out 7. I don't know,
Absolutely.
because I've not thought of it before. This is just on the spur of the moment.
Right, and that's the reason we didn't share this as a question with you earlier. And I like what you said, but how would you kind of define communication? What is communication all about for you?
Communication could be verbal, it could be non-verbal, it could be by way of a play, it could be of a show, it could be in terms of not only what you express and how not only how you express something,
right,
but what you express.
Right.
So I think the content and what it is, it's important to get into that completely, thoroughly, well, and to be able to reflect that in as good a way as possible. Especially choosing it, matching it to the platform, to the occasion, to what you're trying to get to.
Right.
I think that is what I call being a communicator, in the sense that, hey, I've been a occasional theater person. Occasionally I've written. Occasionally I've been a quiz master. Occasionally I've acted. Occasionally I've been a director. In all of those are all aspects of being a communicator. I don't think of myself as being any one of them. But I think as a whole, what we do is in the area of communications. And I meant communicator in that sense.
Right. Because, I teach a course on effective communications. We use the principles of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I'm connecting this with your show, Sach Ka Samna, right, where you use a lie detector, etc. Because what science shows you is that the most important part of communication is listening. And most people don't understand that listening is a forgotten art, and also a science which they don't understand, because only 7% of listening is hearing, right? That's what the Columbia experiments threw up. And 93% of listening is non-verbal. So you can actually it's called the science of kinesics. And you can actually kind of tell whether a person is lying or telling the truth simply by watching their face, their eye movement, the way their throat bobs, and the overall body language. And that's why listening is a very important part of communication. And
in an individual way, as well as a performer, that is a vital thing, because it is absolutely, as a performer, you have to listen, you have to respond. Absolutely. It is not enough to just do your bit. You have to respond to the situation, to the environment, to the ambience, to what the other people or the other person is doing. But also, you mentioned Moment of Truth, which was the original Colombian version, which was made, the program which became Sach Ka Samna.
Right.
On that, Howard Schultz was his name, who came and sort of, told us of what about it. And they would have detective agencies and all finding out about people. We don't have those systems in quite the same way. But he said one important thing is what all our researchers did. He said, we have to become human lie detectors.
Right, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so really, what we found out about people was from things that they said, from things that people around them said, and we put it to them. And where we differed from the American original, that we didn't just go for scandalous revelations and end with them. The host was a very good listener. And that's one thing that I try to impart to the hosts of all our shows. A number of them are actors, not necessarily anchors or conversationalists, is that you have to listen.
Absolutely.
And I think what marked out Sach Ka Samna, for those who remember it, was a certain sensitivity, a certain compassion, a certain listening. We listened to what the other person have to say. That doesn't mean we thought that whatever they did was right or wrong. You were talking of morality, but we listened.
Absolutely.
And we sort of, the viewer had to listen and make up their own judgment. And at the end of it, when the lie detector, and this was a FBI licensed polygrapher who would come from the States, who would run the lie detection test, we said the lie detector thinks you're lying, not we think you're lying or you're a liar. The lie detector, in the sense, because lie detector depends on blood pressure and depends on the pulse rate and all sorts of things.
The anxiety,
according
the
to
stress,
this, it's saying you're wrong.
Absolutely.
So basically, that's good. That was just to respond to your question.
I'm very, very happy that you clarified that, because, I teach a public speaking course, and in the public speaking course, people get surprised when I say, don't talk as a public speaker, listen. If you're not listening to the audience, you don't know when you lost them. And then the other thing I liked what you spoke about is about being a voice of conscience. That's exactly why we started the Karmavir Awards, because what we promote is that the world and the country especially requires more voices of dissent, more voices of conscience in this era of apathy. And I think the biggest problem that the world is facing now is not conflict, war, corruption. It's apathy, human apathy, because we won't just speak out against what is going wrong, whether it's in the country or our world. And of course, synergy in everything that we do. And you spoke about provoking thought. And we start all our learning programs with this one simple slide and thought by Socrates, who said, I cannot teach anyone anything. I can only make you think. So with that, Siddhartha, I would invite you to pose your first question to the audience from the quiz that you're conducting on this program. Over to you. Karthik, do you want to put up the slides?
Okay, Rosa, you want to go with this?
So this is the first question from the quiz.
Hopefully.
Okay, the second question. Yes. Take the second question. Yes. Let me set the ball rolling on this. So this is the book, actually, that both of us worked on and brought out some years back. So it's up to 2017, Indian century. More about that and some questions related to that, and there'll be conversation about that. But here today is we are on the eve of the 72nd anniversary of our republic. And republic, as you know, by definition, is where it's not ruled by a monarch, and correctly speaking, not by an autocrat or a dictator, but a system which throws up its own leaders, and which is ruled by the constitution. That's terribly important. That is constitutional rule, and it's constitutional administration and policy. That's the one. But at this point, we are celebrating also the 125th anniversary of Subhash Chandra Bose. So the first question has to do with that. Let's have that question on the screen. Karthik. Okay, here it is. Now, you know that he was very adventurous person. And the question is, and please all think about it, it'll eventually open up to Facebook too, I think, if we don't have answers from here. What alias did Netaji Subhash Bose use while traveling to Tokyo in the Japanese I-29 submarine? Now, this was an incredible sort of journey. It was on a German U-boat, and then it transferred to a German submarine, and it went all the way across the Cape of Good Hope through very choppy waters. They were trying to avoid the Allied powers, and there was a mid-ocean transfer near Madagascar, and initially even the people on the German ship didn't know who he was at all, because he was traveling incognito. And finally, he transferred to the Japanese, who weren't again told who he was. What was the alias? He used a number of aliases during his travel right out of India when he escaped from Kolkata, and then went to Kabul, and eventually wound up via Russia to Berlin. So what was his name?
So we have a student.
Anybody have any idea?
We have a student called Aryan who's put his answer in the chat. But if you're on Zoom, you can answer it and use your audio. He says Mr. Matsuda.
Matsuda?
Another.
Matsuda, you think?
Yes.
Who's the one who answered?
Aryan,
you're absolutely right.
So Aryan, you are absolutely right. And Matsuda is the alias which was used by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So thank you for that.
Yeah, they were told he was a Japanese VIP, and his companion, who you can see in the picture there on the left, who traveled with him all the way from Berlin, and one of the key people of the Indian Legion there, and later of the, as part of the whole effort that Netaji put towards the INA was Abid Hassan Zafrani. His other aliases, when he traveled out of Kolkata, was Muhammad Ziauddin, supposedly as an insurance agent, and then to Moscow on an Italian passport as Orlando Mazzotta before reaching Berlin. And these are actual pictures. That was during the transfer in the mid-ocean Madagascar, transferring from a German U-boat to a Japanese submarine. And then that is him with Abid Hassan in that picture over there. And there you are, about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Of course, he came to believe later on as a militant nationalist, but it was not always the case. Was initially a lot of different things, brilliant student, didn't take the second part of his Indian civil service exam, even though he did fantastically in London. He on principle decided not to do it, came back, then became an associate with Chittaranjan Das. Happens to be a family friend. My grandfather was an associate of his as well, succeeded him as mayor of Kolkata, and we have correspondence between them. He was a very good administrator and thinker, Subhash Bose. Later on, of course, there are questions about, why did he ally with the Axis powers? And some people say it was just because he wanted to overthrow British rule, and he thought that to be the only way. And the jury is out in how effective, the threat of militant nationalism was in getting independence. But of course, he was a great freedom fighter. And that was the question on him. So congratulations, Aryan, for getting that right. Fantastic. There's likely to be some prizes from our publishers of our book, DK, Darling Kindersley. And however, at this point, we are yet to figure out what books they're going to be. Jerry and his team will let you know.
Yes.
That's the opening question from behalf of Indian Century, as it were.
And thank you, Siddharth, for that. And I must tell you that we had 3 students who answered right here on the chat, and I'm very happy. I recently saw a video of Cyrus Brocha going around places in Bombay asking people what are your fundamental rights, fundamental duties. And I always say that most of us don't know our fundamental rights and duties, but there were 3 students who answered: Aryan, Ankit, and Aishwarya. Aishwarya said Ziauddin, Ankit said Matsuda, and Aryan said Matsuda again. So one of them will win the prize. I think Aryan was the first to answer because Ziauddin was not related to this particular question. But I'm happy to know that most of our fellows know the answers, and the criteria of choosing our fellows is working well. So back to Anita and Siddharth. So Anita and Siddharth, our audience would love to know more about your journey of your life story from childhood to now, and what you plan to do going forward. First, as individuals, okay? Each of you have 7 minutes each, yeah? And then 7 minutes to talk about what you have done together in your lifetime together, because you all started, there was I've read a lot about it on online, but I would like to hear it from you too. And the audience is looking forward to listen to it. So Anita, do you want to go first, or should we let Siddharth go first this time?
Sure. I can go first.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm a Kashmiri, was born in Srinagar, went to school for a very short time there. My parents went to England after that. So I finished my schooling in England. And then at some point they wanted to come back. Happens with a lot of NRIs. There's always a call from homeland. But eventually, of course, it didn't happen, but still, they're still living there. But I did join Miranda House and did my English honors in Miranda House. Around that time is the time that there was a lot of theater activity. And between Miranda House and St. Stephen's in that first year did not have girls students. They started subsequently.
They came up that same year, 75, just a small,
was it
very
same
small
year, or was it
bunch.
the next year?
The same year.
It was the 75. Okay. So a lot of, they used to actually, even before that, if there was any co-curricular activities that were happening, they used to borrow girls from Miranda House, St. Stephen's. but yeah, so we did in fact, Meera Nair, the filmmaker, she was in my college, and very fond of her. She was very fond of me. And of course, she was in theater to begin with. And so she sort of told me, listen, there's a play going on in St. Stephen's College, and it's been directed by this guy called Siddhartha Basu. So why don't you come? I think you can be part of that. So yeah, and I mean, generally, I used to be, toward sort of veering towards arts and theater or dance or any of these activities in college. So I did go there, and I met Siddharth for the first time. So that's when we did that one play together. It was called The Serpent. It was a very experimental play that was done. If in the effectively we performed it inside the chapel in St. Stephen College. So yeah, that went well, and then I think we got to know each other pretty much, and uh, then our journey began together. Much later, we got married 8 years after that.
Wow.
But
So 8 years
I
of
think
courting before getting married. Wow.
yes, a long
You all
way
survived the
before.
7-year itch even before getting married.
I told you I was determined.
Well, the thing was that my parents, Kashmiri, they wanted me to get married to that there's all that drama going on in the
Right.
background.
Good old days. Good
But
old days.
yes. So all that drama happened, but I think eventually we did get married in 1988. And I effectively, after I left college, I did a course in mass communication journalism course. And at that time, there weren't a lot of colleges that had, media related courses. It happened a little later, they weren't dedicated that time. So that's around that time that I did that course. And I think after that, I joined a magazine for a short time that sort of fizzled out. But subsequently, I joined India Today. So I was there on the editorial board for 5 years. And so around that time, I think we got married, and when my first child, Aditya, came along, that's around the time that I think it was very difficult to take that choice, carry on working, not carry on working. We didn't have a huge support system around us. And I think I was, like mentioned earlier, I was very particular how I brought up my children. So I think it was a tough choice to just, leave work, you know, and bring up our child. And then subsequently, of course, my daughter was born 3 years down the line. But during that time, I think was also very, things changed for us too. Um, it was a very simple life we led. I mean, I think when we began with very low salaries, at that time in the 80s, people didn't pay you a lot. They just gave you, whatever, from anywhere between 900 and 2000. That's like 2000 was huge. But we managed to live on that, and we managed to, take care of everything within that. And I think around that, when my son was born, Aditya was born, and that's around the time that Siddharth got this offer to be on television, and he will tell you about that himself. And I think that was the beginning and the journey, our life into the quizzing world, as it were. So that was never a quizzer, but yes, he was, like you said, a communicator, a very good host, and that sort of set off a thing in an era, I think, where there was only Doordarshan, right? There were no satellite television. There was nothing of the sort that we have now in terms of choices. So people did get hooked onto that. And I think towards the as we went along, we decided to produce ourselves. We got to know the capabilities of, I mean, skill bases that were required to put stuff together. Um, and at some point, we started our own company, which was more towards 1988, 89. That's around the time. And and that's it. I think people started, giving us programs, and I think we never thought of this as a let me say, as from a point of view of business or entrepreneurial or any of those things. It was something that, and that's been an attitude towards what we do, and have done. It's more that there is a project, it has to be done. It has to be done to the best of our abilities, and of course, it should be the best in terms of benchmarking. We introduced a lot of new technologies into what we did, new thinking. I think that's what stood out. Some of the programs that we have done. I'm not talking about, of course, the later part of it, where something like KBC came along, but I'm talking even before that. So the programming that we did, had a huge impact, uh, in terms of what it was. Not just what we're staying in content. You were also talking about what are you putting into it in terms of look, the feel, the hosting, the conduct, so a lot of care and thought went into creating formats, creating the essence of what a good television program should be. So it wasn't only just put out something and it'll fly. So I think that's been our USP, our hallmark, in terms of each time that we did something, we had to bring something new to it. Each time that we went to the next project or the next level, we explored every possible every possible thought or every possible instrument that would make that show different, or put it on a lot on the international level as much as possible. Whatever was available, of course, earlier there was not much available in terms of technologies, in terms of in terms of lighting, in terms of, it was very, very minimal. So, but beyond that, we worked with IIT engineers to create buzzers. I mean, that was like some time back. But those were things that we were constantly exploring, and how to bring a unique property and keep working on that and keep it going. I think that's our hallmark, and we work together. Of course, I brought up my children to a large extent throughout that. I was not totally involved with the organization when my kids were very small. But slowly, I think, slowly I would get involved with this. But as I went along, and things like organizationally, we corporatized at one point when we sold part of our company to Reliance. We did corporatize, and a lot of the systems and the corporate systems were completely alien to us, because we worked as a sweatshop. We worked as a small boutique operation, really. We did some of the biggest shows as a boutique operation out of Delhi. So once we did get, we had that exposure being out there, the corporatization part of it, and we didn't have anybody at that time to say, okay, yeah, listen, take this job and run with it. So a lot of that stuff really came on top of me, and I think I just learned how to deal with it in the best way I could. I set up systems, like I earlier said, that I'm a highly organizational kind of person. So it came naturally to me. Some of those things had to be put into operation. So we did run a fully corporatized office, where there were all these separate, whether it was legal and administrative and HR and finances and all those laterals that happen in any corporate organization. And of course, there was the production part of it.
Absolutely.
And so one was involved in getting the back end ready, getting people in place, having some kind of production, having putting together these mammoth shows that we did. So that, I think, something that I did learn as I went along. Like I said, there was a lot of hard work. There was a lot of relearning and learning. There was a lot of failures also along the way. Things didn't work out or didn't happen. But hey, I think tenacity is one of the things we do have. There is times that I thought, oh, I can't do this. I give up. But I think Siddhartha has some of those qualities. He is a guy who will never give up. So I think that's kept us moving forward. What are we planning to do? I think in the field of education, in whatever way, at whatever point, we would like to explore that a little further. But I don't, at this particular point, we are getting older. We put in whatever it is. But yes, there is a life. I don't see us really sitting and doing nothing. At the same time, if we put something in, you put a seed in place, and we have got these apps coming up, then it needs to be nurtured, and hopefully we get the right people to nurture that, and
Excellent.
and we are there. So
thank you.
yes,
Yeah.
my God, that's encapsulating and a half.
Right. So thank you, Anita. That was very helpful, and I think some brilliant life lessons that, even though you did not have the resources like the buzzers at that time, good old days,
Oh,
you
yes.
decided to use your resourcefulness, go and find ways to get things done, make those buzzers with IIT students. And I connect this with what you said earlier about one of the descriptors. You said it's about being better and better every day, being better versions of yourself every day. And I connect this with Siddhartha, what he said about being a perfectionist. And I always tell people that being perfect rather, is the biggest lie of the world, because nothing can be perfect. Kaizen, continuous improvement, is the reality. And how do you kind of keep getting better at what you do and whatever you create? So thank you so much, Anita. Brilliant. Over to you, Siddhartha.
This is about life journey.
Yes, your life journey.
7 minutes. Let's see if I can hit the clock on that one.
Absolutely. I won't stop you because I didn't stop Anita also, but the whole idea is...
You have to stop me. I will try and time myself.
I want to know when there's this book, which is my holy book, called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, Dr. Viktor Frankl says that you cannot invent your purpose. You discover it, you detect it. So I don't know, when did you detect that purpose that, I want to do something in the space of quizzing, because that became your life journey. So over to you, Siddhartha.
That was happenstance. I came to quizzing by happenstance. I have to admit that. I've said that many times before. But let's begin at the beginning. I was born in Kolkata, but my father was then posted in Bombay. So that was only for my birth and delivery, as it were, that my mom went to Kolkata. He was on a transferable job. So I grew up in Bombay, first 7 years of my life, then 4 years in Delhi, next 4 years in Chennai. And then finally, from 71, I joined St. Stephen's. I did a bachelor's in literature. I then did my master's also in English literature from Delhi University. I tried for a number of years. I was making documentaries. I learned about the medium. I would have loved to have been a filmmaker. Before that, I wanted to be a theater person because that was my grand passion through college. Theater was really something that I would have loved to have made my life's vocation, as it were, because, in terms of the content, direction, but we were limited by circumstance and the opportunities, really. During my college days, let me track back a little to the family. So we were a family of 5. I have 2 siblings, older sisters. My father was a banker in a multinational bank. It was then called Mercantile Bank, which is now part of the HSBC group.
Right.
He was, when he retired, one of the senior most people in the bank. My mother was very charismatic. She used to sing and, very well. All basically, of course, Bangla music, Rabindra Sangeet, but also devotional music. And she used to have a huge following for her kind of music throughout. So they were both gifted performers, as it were. and storytellers and mimics, and apart from other things. Ma used to, of course, play the harmonium. She used to form groups, music groups of all ages. She used to teach in an informal way, and we got across. So we grew up with that in our circumstances. My father was a good mimic. He used to love Western classical music. He has a huge collection. So we grew up listening to that and getting really quite inspired by that from both sides. My sisters, in their own way, were talented. They used to perform as performers, apart from whatever else they did. When we were kids in Bombay, with a little neighborhood place at Madhu Park, my sister used to do sort of plays and skits that we used to put up in, and we used to rehearse for them and put them up in the veranda over there. We were just 5 flats. It was not a huge multi-story. We didn't have that then. And I loved that childhood. We used to live in and out of each other's house. My sister used to, do that. My other sister, through college, used to perform, whether it was dance or acting or whatever it is. So that was a kind of environment. And also ideas, because as I explained, my grandfather was in public life. He was, as I mentioned, he was mayor of Kolkata at one stage. This was way back in 32, 33. He succeeded Bidhan Rai and Subhash Bose there. He was a minister in undivided Bengal. He was 2-term member of the Rajya Sabha. And so there was a certain thinking also, which was, how should I put it, which was about the new India, which was born in their lifetimes. The 20th century was one of the most formative periods in the life of this country, when certainly the Republic was found, the foundations were laid, and the ideas that informed that, which is very much part of our book, was laid down there. Some of that, a lot of that I imbibed there. Reading, I used to love reading as a child. I used to read voraciously. Also, when we moved to Delhi, it was very different from a neighborhood place. There was a much larger house, and neighbors were mostly foreigners. And, I used to just cycle endlessly through Defense Colony, where we spent our time. But we had a few friends, but not that much. I used to read. I used to read whatever I could lay my hands on, whatever I'd get hold. So I think that became very much a part of what happened later on. An interest in literature, certainly, but also in reading widely and well. I think that was formed then. To track back to college, we tried to make theater. There was a theater group by the name of Theater Action Group, which was a group of us. We used to do plays. We brought in a director who was actually British, but he made his life here. He's still here. He came in '69 as a teacher of English, but then he was very gifted. He'd been to art school. And we formed a group called Theater Action Group because he used to direct plays in college. But a group of us then performed through various colleges of, the hills and schools, or whether it was Mayo College or Doon School, or the schools and colleges in around Simla and Mussoorie. During the summer holidays, we would tour with productions. When TAG was formed, we did an A Macbeth, which was an experimental Macbeth, which scrambled up Shakespeare's text. Only Shakespeare's text were completely scrambled, reinterpreted as an occult kind of thing. And the performance style, it was a group of 12, which was very kinetic through chanting and sound and movement and choreography. It was completely different from narrative, linear kind of theater. We did a kids play, which had a very different physical vocabulary. And we did a workshop to get people to know how to get into the play, understand it. It was very exciting, and formed the group, which was very influential in Delhi when it was formed, though most of us were collegiates. And it was, we did some landmark productions. It was very well revered by even the serious theater community in Hindi as well, whether it was Ibrahim Al-Qazi at NSD or the critics or whatever it is. The then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi would attend the productions. There was, so it was an exciting time for theater and for us who were doing things there. I directed my first play for the group when I was 19, and then I went to Kolkata and directed there too, which was my first job. I was paid for a group called Red Curtain. I was paid a princely sum of 400 rupees, I remember. For that play, it took a couple of months to put together and put it out. And I would have loved to have made a life out of theater. Opportunity wasn't there. It still isn't in the country, unfortunately. And of course, I was working in English. But I wanted to work then on film. I learned on the ropes. So filmmaking was next. I was making documentary featurettes and little features for almost 8 years. And I learned on the job. Research, direction, writing commentaries, voiceovers, editing, holding lights, everything I learned on the job with a group of very gifted people. And that was from a company called Television News Features, which is to then be the only organization in the entire country doing 2 series for Doordarshan. One was called the Development News Features, which was just, 5 to 7 minute little featurettes all over the country. So I would travel, do stuff, put it together. And then Popular Science, to deal with science subject, to do with certain subjects, make them comprehensible. And these were done in black and white 16-minute film, which were then the written commentary would be circulated and be translated to various Indian languages and telecast in that way. But on film, remember, when none of the video and technology was available then, so we learned cell animation. We would do our own cells and animate them right there. I would do my own editing and chopping and cutting and put it together. So we learned on the job, and some very gifted people were there. There was Pradeep Krishan, who's now written some wonderful books on trees. He moved on, but he was making documentaries there. Arundhati Roy at that time, she would come in and sort of do stuff. We had some very, very gifted cameramen. There was a chap called R.K. Bose. And this was the organization which later became ANI, which is the country's, sort of premier sort of news gathering, audiovisual news gathering organization. At that time, they had Viz News, Asian Films, and Television News Features. And of course, a good friend called Satya Prakash, who was very encouraging during my time there. So I learned filmmaking. We used to make the films. So apart from making my own things, which was what earned me my living, and for small sums, the most you could hope to earn in a month was 1,500 rupees. Okay. And we live within that. And I had a room above a garage. Initially, I began in the garage. Then I had a room, which was also a first matrimonial home, incidentally. Right. And Rosa was fantastically adaptive about that. She was really, one of the things that she said about herself, she's pragmatic and practical and hands-on. She makes things work, whether it is at work, whether it's parenting, she's hands-on. She did that and really helped us build a life together. But to go back to the career and the filmmaking, so there was that filmmaking stuff going on over there. I left and comes back to our life. We'd been courting, as it were, for 8 years, and I needed a white-collar job to be able to convince Orthodox parents that, hey, I'm kosher, we'll make a life together. And so I took a job, the only job I've done in my life, with the Taj Group of Hotels. There was a friend, Ravi Dubey. His wife, Lilette Dubey, still does plays. She directs, acts, very gifted. Film, television, theater, of course, is the big thing. So Ravi was the youngest general manager of Taj Group, and he said, come and meet our Kamila Punjabi, who was the doyen, marketing doyen then, and said, then I told her, she said, we want to give back to the community. How do we make Taj the center of things? So I gave her a whole spiel. She was impressed enough to say, okay, you're on. So I was with the Taj Group for a couple of years. After 1 year, we got married, which was the whole mission of doing that entire thing. But we did exciting things I learned being an impresario there, became a little bit more practical, because money was never part of the mental makeup. Right. And even in the family, money was never supposed to be the reason why you did things. It had to be there. And my banker father till the end wondered, hey, he doesn't have a regular job. What the hell? Where is this going? So he continued to think that till his last breath, as it were. But however, having said that, at the Taj, we did also, it was not just for one hotel, it was for the group. Right. And that was a time where lots of things were happening. The non-aligned meets heads of state from all over the world, Commonwealth heads of state, World Energy Conference. And we had to figure out, sometimes we used to have 500 performers on an occasion. It was small things. We want to keep Sundays busy at the hotel. We would have jam sessions, daytime jam sessions, or kids' plays in the morning. We did a whole wonderful musical production with TAG to launch a restaurant, Tea House of the August Moon. So I had great fun doing that. And I got practical also about, the commercial thing. We would have to get sponsors interested in doing the advertising for the play and try to get people, audiences. So I became a little twigged on about those aspects of the thing. And then, of course, it came to my former colleagues at the place I was making films were then, Doordarshan was just opening up to private producers. And they were making a pilot of a program called Safecracker. On that pilot, Anita happened to be a mock contestant among 8 people. There were lots of interesting mock contestants. There was Pawan Verma, who ended up as the head of ICCR and a whole lot
Right.
of grand things. There's Kanti Bajpai, who's a foremost academic. There was Paran Balakrishnan, a whole lot of interesting people were contestants, and Sagarika was a hostess. Okay. Now, the host was somebody called Partha Basu, who was a venerated quiz master. He used to run a column in Illustrated Weekly called the Quiz Mountain, and he was then the managing director of Mercury Travels. I got a call at the hotel saying, just come across for a couple of minutes and, introduce this guy in the show. They'd seen me being default MC for New Year's Day or something like that. I said, okay, just put in. And I said, what am I supposed to do? We had to wear suits in the hotel. They said, okay, he's dressed right, come across. So I puttered across on my little bike over to the hotel, to the auditorium. I said, what have I got to do? And they said, hey, just give it a rah-rah opening and introduce the host. And so that's it. In 10 minutes, you're out. I went 1 month later, so I said, will you host the show? The sponsors and Doordarshan are asking, so I did. That was for a year. And one thing led to the other. So quizzing, I'd never quizzed through college. People like Ram Guha and Shashi Tharoor and Venkatramani and a whole lot of them were active quizzers. They set up quizzing at St. Stephen's. I never had anything to do with any of that. But because I hosted it, did a reasonable job. I think people thought it was okay, but didn't have anything to do with the research or anything like that. Got all the flack for any errors, which used to be picked up from newspapers and things. So next year I took control of that. I left the hotel, joined a company called ITV, which was then and Quiz Time then happened. And that's how one thing led to the other. Other than quizzes, we've done a whole lot of other programs. We've done current affairs, we've done teleplays, we've done India's Got Talent, the first 2 seasons. We've done Jhalak Dikhlaja, which is Strictly Come Dancing. The first 2 seasons, we've done a show like Sach Ka Samna. A very successful show we did was a sort of a court show, a court reality show called Kiran Ki Kacheri, which was, sort of alternate dispute redressal. With that, we did a current affairs show for the longest time. We read Sangvi, which was very successful, more than 100 shows, called A Question of Answers, which led to programs like Big Idea. But our emphasis was always light rather than heat. It had to be informed and factual. So actually the journey began there for many years. Still one time somebody said, come to Bombay and do KBC. So a bunch of us moved there. One thing led to the other. Along the way, we tied up initially actually with a company called Ad Labs. Right. We didn't know Reliance was going to be in the picture at all. Right. But Ad Labs then, but in a few months, Ad Labs shipped out. Manmohan Shetty, who was a very revered figure in the Bombay film industry. So it was with them that we had collaborated because budgets were getting enormous, teams were getting enormous, the projects were enormous, payments were very delayed, and there was legal aspects and all that. So we did a sort of a strategic tie-up at that time. Then Reliance came into the picture, the ADAG group that is. And so we were with them till 2016. Then we stepped back and, sold back our shares to them and said, hey, go with it. And we thought we'd done enough for production. At that time, factual entertainment, which was our field, was, it was having a little bit of a downturn, and we didn't want to break our heads convincing broadcasters. So we sort of stepped back. Now we're working on content. And there, I think I've done my more than 7 minutes.
All right, that's brilliant, and that's a great life journey. And you actually proved what Dr. Viktor Frankl said to be right, that you don't invent your purpose, you discover it, you detect it, because like you said, it happened by happenstance. But then you found your path, you created your way, and you created much more than just the quiz time and quizzing, because you kind of created this entire concept of factual entertainment, and brought mainstream shows to the fore with celebrated actors who added value to that. So thank you so much. Great learning more about your life journey, Anita and Siddharth. And Siddharth, I'll open up the quiz again to you. Maybe you can ask 3 questions this time before we go deeper into the book.
Okay, it's been an hour, so I'll let you decide how long we go for what.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, everybody.
The audience is still there, so and they have some questions for you also, which I'll ask you once we finish the quiz. So maybe you can do 3 to 4 questions.
I'm good for it. It's COVID times. We're at homes. It's Sunday. If people are happy to be with us on the Sunday, we are fine.
Sure.
The first question from our Indian Century book related to it in some ways or the other. Rosa, I'll ask you to go with it. Here's the first question. Here's the slide coming up on your screen.
So the question is, who proclaimed India a republic at the Darbar Hall of Government House at 10:18 a.m. on 26 January 1950?
Okay, Rosa, Jerry went for it because you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Rosa can still repeat it again.
Yeah, unmute, please.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, this is a slice of very important history and the turning point of our country. Who proclaimed India a republic at the Darbar Hall of Government House at 10:18 a.m. on 26 January 1950?
It is Republic Day. This is Republic Day special.
Yes.
So we thought important to have a few questions on the Republic.
Right.
Rajendra Prasad says Akshat Vedans to everyone.
Right.
No, it's not Rajendra Prasad.
And Aryan says Raja Gopalachari.
Does he?
Yes.
Aryan says Raja Gopalachari, Rajaji. Why Rajaji? Aryan, if you're on, tell us.
Yeah. Aryan, you can start your audio and speak.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Basu.
Hi, Aryan.
Hi. Yeah, am
Hi.
I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
So, there is a hum on your audio,
Yeah.
but you can proceed. Yeah.
all right. I was going through a news a couple of days back where there were the history of that particular dimension.
We can't hear you clearly, Aryan, now.
Yeah. You can
Go
speak
for it,
now.
Aryan.
Yeah, am I audible now?
More
Yeah, a
audible.
little better.
More audible.
Little
All right, all right. I was going through a news article a few days back and this name was mentioned aligned to that of Darbar Hall.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why Rajaji?
Not really. I mentioned I was going through an article that was
Okay,
related
like
to
that.
Republic
Yeah.
Day.
All right. All right. Let's see if there's anybody else. In any case, even if it is right, we can't give it to you.
No, Parvi, it's not
Yeah, go ahead.
Rajendra Prasad. Yeah, go ahead.
Parvi
He
Jain
was
also says Rajendra Prasad. That is incorrect.
Can I speak?
Go ahead,
Yes,
Joyce.
please,
Go ahead,
whoever.
please.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I just Googled it up. He was the Governor General, the last
Okay, you
Governor
went one step
General
further than Aryan. So is that Joyce?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's me, Joyce. I'm going to be straight up honest. I went and I Googled it because I didn't know.
You know,
So
the thing about Google is you have to be able to navigate it right. So you have to get beyond the first thing that pops up, which is what sometimes it's just the first thing that pops up, but go further. But yes, Joyce, you're absolutely right. Because he was the Governor General and therefore the head of state at that point of time. He was the first Indian head of state. We'll give you more details about that on the next slide. And therefore, he was actually Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, brilliant mind and person. He was the last Governor General of India and the only Indian to have held that office. Rosa, you want to read the rest of the details?
Yeah, sure. So he was popularly called Rajaji, as we all know. He was the last Governor General of India and the only Indian to have held the office. So that's interesting bit of information. Rajaji had earlier served as the Prime Minister of Madras Presidency from 1937 to 39 and Chief Minister of Madras State from 1952 to 54. So when we are talking about states, this is obviously, before a lot of, the states were formed, Madras Presidency in 37 and 39. Shortly after the declaration of India as a sovereign democratic republic, Rajendra Prasad was sworn in as the first president of India.
And that's a picture from that time.
Yeah, that's the
right then.
Garhol.
And figure out, and remember, a number of states had prime ministers,
Yes.
even after independence, and then including, say, even Jammu and Kashmir, till they transitioned to a system of chief ministers. And has just been pointed out, Rosa, the linguistic division of states had happened later. So Madras presidency, then later Andhra was carved out of it, different parts, this way and that way. So this was a Madras presidency, and Rajaji, of course, was the person who declared India a republic at that point of time. Okay, Joyce, you get that one. And
Yes,
guys, Google,
Joyce.
but give me a little bit more detail. And of course, we'll give credit for the person who
I
gets
think
it
there
right
were,
with the right detail.
I think there were people before Joyce gave her Googled
Joyce.
answer.
Aryan
There were people who were there who got it right.
Yeah, Aryan was the first to say Raja Gopalchari. On a lighter note, if we had some blind believing bucks in the audience, they would have said Narendra Modi.
Well, history started 2014. So yes.
Right, yeah. Okay. Over to the next question. Sorry about that one, but I couldn't help taking a take.
Okay. So, however, what I'm trying to say is that, in the sense of sometimes in terms of if there are going to be prizes, and that's we'll soon find out how many we have. One person won't get a prize twice. Okay. But of course, you will get credit. So the person we recognize is the person who first gives a credible answer with the right detail and with right reasons. We'll declare the winner of that particular point. Okay, next question. Question number 3 of the day. This one more to do with Republic Day. So 2, what declaration on the banks of the Ravi in Lahore on 26 January 1930 was a key factor in choosing that date to be the one when India would become a republic, which is 26 January. So what was the declaration on the banks of the Ravi on that day, which later became the deciding factor for deciding that that would be the day India would be declared a republic? And the republic, remember, is the day where the constitution comes into force and becomes the basis of running the government. Not what one party thinks, not what one person thinks, but the constitution. That is the holy of holies. Anybody know an answer to that? Apart from your group, anybody on Facebook, coming in on that?
We have a few people commenting on Facebook.
What are some of the comments?
Purna Swaraj. Purna Swaraj.
Purna Swaraj? Who said Purna Swaraj? Do we have a name?
There's Richa, there's Basavraj, there's Amit Kumar, there's Ramanand Jha. And we'll track who said it first later. But it's Purna Swaraj is what everyone is saying.
Okay, let's have the details up on the screen. Yes, it is Purna Swaraj. So good for getting that on. As the president of the Indian National Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru led the passing of the Purna Swaraj resolution in Lahore on 19 December 1929, resolving to fight for nothing less than complete independence and a national flag, not the one that we have now, but a prototype national flag was hoisted on December 31st, 1929. People were asked to observe the last Sunday of January, which is 26 January 1930, as Independence Day, when tricolor with the charkha in the middle was hoisted across the country, celebrating the occasion. Okay, it was a charkha then in the middle of them. That was the flag that was used. And hence, 26 January was later chosen as the day India became a republic in 1950 and the constitution came into effect. So congratulations for all of you who've got that right.
Everyone said Purna Swaraj. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Purna Swaraj, of course, means complete independence.
Absolutely.
That's what it means. One last question before we get back to the chat.
Just to clarify again, Siddhartha, I always speak about this, that demos and kratos are the origin of the word democracy, which means people power, and republic means people rule. And I think we all need to remember this as citizens, that it is not the power of politicians or the rule of politicians. They are here to serve. I often wonder why we say they are ruling, the ruling government. They should have been the serving government. They are the public servants.
Absolutely.
The people are the rule, not the politicians. I want to clarify that for all of you. Yeah,
I completely, and all over the world at this point of time, Jerry, people are, think that just because there's been one election, we have a scary phenomenon of an elected autocracy.
Absolutely.
Just because they've been elected once or maybe twice in some places, they can do what they like. They cannot do what they like. They're answerable to people, their opinions, to the constitution at the end.
And the people have to hold them accountable. I wrote this piece for a magazine in 2019, when almost every politician, whether it was Narendra Modi or Rahul Gandhi or Arvind Kejriwal, they were all talking about, I am the only one. And I'm saying, I said, by saying I'm the only one, you're saying we are 1.4 billion important not important people. Because how can you say, I mean, a leader doesn't say I'm the only one. A leader recognizes everybody as leaders, because what happens to you after you die? I mean, what happens to the country? Will the country collapse? And I think
No,
that's
exactly. And this is the important thing, Jerry, that it's not about just calling yourself a democracy or calling yourself a republic, but being that in the true meaning of the sense. Even North Korea thinks it's a republic.
Right.
Or, we are not talking about that. And we have this phenomenon happening not only in countries, but in our own country, even in states.
Very true.
We have elected autocrats
Right.
coming up.
Right.
Where, one person's word holds sway. That's never what democracy or the republic has been about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And on a lighter note, Siddharth, I always say this in public talks that, in 2017, in a survey conducted in the United States, many people in the United States believe that brown chocolate is made from brown milk, which comes from brown cows. That's the world's greatest democracy. That's how Trump became president there. And in India, we actually touch cows to regulate our blood pressure, drink cow urine. Now you know how Modi became the prime minister. So therein lies the failure of democracy. Over to you again, Siddharth.
That's why general knowledge, that's why fact, that's why truth defined as fact. That's why our national motto was Satyameva Jayate, not Asatyameva Jayate.
Absolutely. And I'm
Not
so happy
fiction,
that we are speaking about this.
Not faith, but fact.
Absolutely.
Truth. And beyond fact, truth.
Right.
And
Only the truth will prevail.
Sometimes is elusive. There's that line, what is truth, says jesting Pilate, and would not wait for an answer. That's Francis Bacon, of course.
Yes.
So somebody says, what about the truth? And he says, what is truth? Is whatever I want it to be. That's, post-truth fact is not what it is. Or alternate version of facts is not what it is. It's not acceptable. There is a fact. There is history. Sorry.
Yeah, over to you. Third,
the next question. Rosa.
Which artist and his team illuminated the Constitution which came into force on the first Republic Day?
Just to add a little detail, our Constitution, the first Constitution, the original Constitution, is handwritten. It's not printed.
Yeah.
It's there in the Rashtrapati Bhavan Museum, beautifully calligraphed and illuminated. Illuminated the titles, the cover pages, the borders, occasional illustrations, and it's been done really beautifully. So the question is, and that was chosen, which artist and his team illuminated the Constitution? Allowed to search on Google. Everything is allowed, provided you do it right, get to the right thing. Somebody wants to know, is it allowed on Google? Are you allowed to Google? Everything is okay. On Newsways, we had an open book round. Use Google, but get to the right answer. Use Google, good Mozilla Firefox, use Bing, use whatever browser you want, but learn to get to the right answer. Okay? Not Ram Manohar Sinha says Aryan to everyone. Not
Aryan
Bihar
says it was
Sinha
Bihar
either.
Sinha. Vedant,
No.
Akshat Vedant said Ram Manohar Sinha.
No, that's not correct. Illuminated. This is a quiz chestnut. Anybody on Facebook?
Prem Singh says Nandalal Basu.
Prem Singh says Nandalal Bose, is it?
Nandalal Bose. Nandalal Bose, that's Parvi
Basu,
Jain.
Bose, Boshu are all the same name, incidentally.
Right. Yeah. So
Okay,
Prem
the original
Singh.
in Bangla, it's Boshu.
Yeah.
One anglicization is Bose, one anglicization is Basu. All right. So
Then you have Richa Chauhan on Facebook who says Bismillah Khan, Ramanand Jha who says Nandalal Bose again, Basavraj who says Nandalal Bose, Ranjit Sharma says Prem Bihari, Narayan Raizada, and those are the answers.
Amritbir Singh also says Nandalal Bose, and yes, indeed, that is the correct answer. Rosa.
So the original copy, of course, Nandalal Bose is right. The original copy of the Constitution of India was handcrafted, not printed. It was illuminated, customized initials, borders, illustrations that were hand-drawn by renowned modernist painter Nandalal Bose, along with fellow artists of Shantiniketan. Yes, somebody had given that as a reference earlier.
He was the head of something called Kala Bhavan, which was the sort of, art
at Shantiniketan.
Art school at Shantiniketan. And so he used his students and team and colleagues to also assist him. Carry on.
The text was calligraphed by Prem Bihari Narayan. Raizada, there's a long name. Saxena was obviously...
Saxena was a surname. Raizada
Yes.
was what he used.
Yeah. And the original copy of the Constitution is now in the Library of the Parliament of India.
It's a wonderful document. It's
Absolutely.
a wonderful document. It's the shining light of our republic.
Absolutely.
It's very modern. It's very progressive. And of course, it's amended and it's grown, some in arguable ways, some not. And of course, argument and dissent is at the heart of democracy. That's there.
Absolutely.
But the fundamentals of the Constitution are tremendous. Anybody have a chance to look at it, relook at it, rediscover it, because those are the founding principles of our republic. Okay,
and thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anita and Siddharth. And, I have a question for both of you. This is what I often ask in crowded gatherings where I speak, as a professional speaker, whether it's a corporate talk or a talk in the UN or a talk in the training center for bureaucrats in Mussoorie. And I must tell you, most bureaucrats also don't know the answer to this. What is the significance of 2611? 26 November.
2611, 26/9 we know about. 2611 is, of course, the Taj.
Right.
Yeah.
I always
Not just the Taj, I beg your pardon. All the places that were under attack.
Right.
It was the Oberoi, it was
Right.
the
center,
it was the hospital, it
the
was
Bombay,
BT
Right.
station, everything, yes.
And then I joke with the audience and I say, the terrorists knew the significance of the date and hence chose the date which we in India till date don't know. And 2611 is the day, 11 is the day when the Constitution was adopted and presented for the first time in the Indian Parliament by Dr. Ambedkar. And landmark words which he said that, don't praise the Constitution. Yes, we've done a good job by, writing the Constitution along with the team. But if the people of India don't understand the essence of the Constitution and don't practice it, then this Constitution will be just another piece of paper. And those words 75 years later have come true because the citizens of India don't know their fundamental rights, and they don't even have a clue about something called the fundamental duties. And even the bureaucrats who come to the IS Academy in Mussoorie don't know this. The first time I went there to do a talk and a workshop for them on leadership, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, who was the DG of the Academy back then, said, "Why were you so appalled when they didn't know the answer? Most people don't come here to serve the country. They come here to increase their dowry." So that's our bureaucracy for you. The bureaucracy was supposed to check the politicians, but they're not checking the politicians anymore. They become subservient to the politicians. And that's the significance of 26/11/1949, because it was presented and adopted for the first time in the Indian Parliament as the foundation, because it was given to the people by the people. So coming back to the
and just
book,
to add a little coda to that, it took 2 years to draft that Constitution.
Yes.
Through vigorous discussion and debate.
Right.
And of course, that's important. And there were lots of differences, but it arrived at that and it set the thing. So the sense of Parliament, of people discussing it, throwing it open even to the opposition, to varying points of view, and then arriving at, rather than rule by diktat.
Absolutely.
This is what it is, everybody follow it. Or rule by ordinance. That was never a part of the thinking of neither a constitution or nor is it okay with a lively, living democracy.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy that you shared that, because the whole idea was, you build a democracy by consensus. You listen to the people rather than tell them what you will do, right? And I say that, that's not happening in any democracy anywhere in the world. And it's crazy that we don't know about this, because we don't, we study civics, which is 20 marks in school. And that's probably the reason that we don't pay importance. I must tell you, most educators don't know about this. And it's surprising that, that they teach civics and they don't know about the significance of 2611. They don't know that Satyamev Jayate is the motto of India, which is the foundation of what India is based on. And I always say, where is the truth in India? The entire country is running on lies. So coming to your book, Anita and Siddhartha, Indian Century, and we can see Nehru, who's responsible for everything that is going wrong in the country, including the teleprompter, which failed a few days back. Right? So in a day and age, in a country where history is getting completely, and I'm going to use a strong word, completely and absolutely bastardized, right? How do we, as people who want to kind of promote facts and truth, stay true to it? Because, today to speak the truth is dangerous, because if you speak the truth, you become wrong, right? So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think is happening in the country? You can see polarization happening. You can see talks on genocide happening. You can see so many things which are going wrong completely. And the entire narrative of history is getting distorted and, like I said, completely bastardized. In that space where even, so-called mythological stories are now being promoted as itihasa and history, how do we stay true to history? What are your thoughts on that?
Jerry, I'm not going to wade into waters where I have very strong views. I'm out on Twitter and I'm, sort of very public with what I think about things, and I do it in a measured way. But we are in the public sphere. The thing is, there is clarity on what facts are and truth is. No amount of propaganda can wash that away or change that.
Right.
I think in fraught times, we have to discover our spine.
Absolutely.
And we have to know what is right and what is wrong and when we begin.
Right.
And one of the things to do is right, is face facts, face the truth, whether pleasant or unpleasant, and recognize them for what is right.
Right.
Because history, for instance, is being recognized as a social science. There are ways of establishing things and finding out about things. There are ways of having written or other evidence about what constitutes history, what doesn't. And there is a discipline to it. History doesn't become history because of what I want you to believe or what I say it is. It is not fiction.
True.
It is not faith. It is what we know about things and how, and that is to do with science too. Science is not just about some technological advancements.
True.
But it's about a way of getting to fundamental principles of our physical world or the biological world or what have you, of finding out, getting into it, keeping on furthering your knowledge and putting things together.
Absolutely.
And this book was an effort to, can I come back to the book, Jerry?
Yes, of course.
I think,
please come back to the book.
start
You were
with
leading me into a
the
political
putting
discussion.
together.
I'm stepping back.
Right.
Okay.
So that was the next question. What is the inspiration behind the book and how did you kind of put it together?
Okay. So in terms of the book, it began initially for something that in the Nehru centenary in 1989. Okay. It was to come on Doordarshan. I said, I'm not interested in doing hagiography on Nehru. We talked with each other. I spoke to Rosa. We both agreed that it didn't have to be about an individual, about a party, about anything of that kind. It had to be, for us, about a formative period of our nation, of our country, of our republic.
Right.
And there was thankfully, the people who asked us to do the program, that quiz, and it was to be taken, it was participated by movers and shakers throughout the country. There was Rakesh Sharma, who was the first Indian in space. There were police officials who were the first women of its kind. There was Shah Rukh Khan. There was, who was just making it at that time in the film world. He's just stepping into that world. There were all kinds of people who came over the series, and it was about the formation of the thing. So the seeds were in that television show, which ran, over, I think it was 21 episodes or something like that. And however, we knew we had great content. And at that time, remember, there was no internet. There was no Google or anything else. You couldn't get to the facts. You had to go to libraries, you had to dig out stuff. So we did a lot of fantastic spade work and put it together. And we thought there had to be a book in it. But it lay there, and we did a number of India quizzes after that. We did 3 more series. A lot of our other quiz programs also had sort of content on India. So there was the makings of a book on that subject. But the coming together of this was something that was Rosa's idea, that listen, enough is enough. We are going to make it happen. and she will tell you about
I think actually, I'd been seeing this, and it's remarkable how some things can transcend time. So we used to have this, those khatas, these files that have tied up in the thing. So there was this big fat file, which effectively I had preserved. I knew there was huge mine of information in this. I knew that there was some seminal stuff, that there was huge amounts of work that went into the research part of it. But of course, over time, there was a huge amount of updates that needed. And it was strange because at the back of my head, I knew that this had to go into a book form. And at the back of my head, I was thinking, no, okay, whenever time I used to get in between, and by that time, I'd got whatever we had, which was literally handwritten notes, okay? Every question was handwritten. Every answer was handwritten. References were handwritten. So I had this pothi with me, which was only handwritten on these strange pieces of paper, okay? Everywhere. And over time, whenever I used to get time in between, I used to just say, okay, let me just, put them into categories, put them into, and keep looking at and adding stuff actually, and things that were not relevant and things that had to have updates, in every category I looked at, there were updates happening. Somebody was alive then and somebody is dead. Somebody's was in cricket, did a century, and somebody's done 500 centuries. So all that was going along the way. And of course, when I went to Bombay, I in fact, the pothi was there, but I had it at least on the computer, and I just kept on adding stuff to it. And I was convinced the book is here, and I didn't know who, where, what, how do we do this? And I kept on adding stuff, bringing it up to date actually. So some of it was supposed to be the century, but as you can see, there are milestones going up to 2017 on that book. So, so effectively, I think at a particular point, that has to come out. I think, both of us discussed this, and I just started editing. I don't know what would come out of it. I didn't know where would it go, and I did the sort of the drafting of it, and then of course towards the end, it was both of us, and of course we had a team of people who sat and double checked on facts, did all the legwork, read it in, editing, all that happened, and of course DK. They came in and they said, okay, we are interested, after having gone through a few other people. But I think we were just happy that it was out, because like I said, it was what, when did we do IQO? Around
1989.
89. So you can imagine.
But as I said, it was the content doesn't only belong to that period. We did a number of Indian centuries. We've done loads of content in India since. So it was a matter of putting it together. We Rosa first set up a meeting with Chiki Sarkar at Juggernaut, who was very helpful, very empathetic, sent us to DK. And DK, of course, is known for very well-designed, elegant, beautifully produced books. So it was a great fit. And we got a shape to it. We had a terrific team, our team at Tree of Knowledge. The entire editorial team was very helpful. We had some individuals. There was Chandramoli Singh, there was Upamanyu Bora, who helped. And we put it together. Fact checking was very important, updating, and of course writing it. So through productions and things, every word and every line had to sort of it had to be rewritten, put back together, and then of course I think it was in 2016-17 on the roughly around the 17th year of independence.
The kind of the wealth of information that was there, and also deciding what would go into the book. If you see, it's in two separate sections. One is, literally year by year, some of the
headlines.
top headlines, and elaboration on those headlines. And then, of course, there's the snapshot, which is primarily all the, people who made up modern India, and I were instrumental in making. So it was more, people centric. But I think we had to shear off a lot of important, I would call it still important stuff, but we put in whatever we could squeeze in within the page, the constraints of page, the number of pages that there were in the book, and give it some visual sense and give it, all that. So I think, sadly, there is another book somewhere which we had to take out from here, and hopefully that will come in use somewhere. But I think we did try to represent, various things like science, communications, what happened in like the arts, films, sports, as much as possible to just have a balance of all these various, subjects and things that happened during that time.
Thank you, Anita
Essentially,
and
it's
Siddhartha.
really a whistle-stop tour. It's a quiz history
Yeah.
Right.
of 20th century India.
Right.
So year by year, headlines, what happened right up to 2017. Every year, 3 maybe disparate things which defined that particular year. Things which were milestones in Indian history.
Right.
That's one approach. Little nuggets on each which had to be highly encapsulated, and put together and yet hit the highlights and factually, checked, verified. And the other one was about, and they could be about events, it could be about people, it could be movements, campaigns, whatever it is. And of course, in all aspects of life, political and everything else. And snapshots was about mainly about individuals, but also about events and shaping things that happened during that time. And we've tried to make it in a way that you can just whiz through it, but you can get the essence. There's a nice index. It's very nicely illustrated, and I think it's an attractive book as a keepsake. As something that you want to browse from time to time, which is a collector's item, not to just dress up the shelves. You mentioned a Japanese word called kaizen, which is continuous improvement. There's also a Japanese word, very interesting one, called sundoku. Sundoku is about acquiring books we just gather dust on the shelves, never to be read. And you think I'm going to get, this is not one of those.
Right.
Read
Absolutely.
them, look at it, and especially,
Right.
we are going to our 75th year of independence.
Right.
You were talking about a certain level of ignorance or just indifference.
Right.
To rediscover that, hopefully the book is good for that. When you see exactly what happened, and then find out more, right?
True. Very nice.
Dig more, because the idea is that a quiz is meant to, it's like the irritant in an oyster which produces the pearl.
Right.
But get beyond that, go beyond that, but at least learn things about that. Which,
and be curious, because curiosity is the biggest trigger of
curiosity
learning.
is the key. Is the
biggest
key.
trigger of learning. Yeah.
Skepticism and curiosity are the bedrocks, I believe, of quizzing. And a quizzical mind, or inquisitive mind in the best sense of the term, not just being nosy or wanting to find out more. Skepticism meaning questioning. Question everything till you're satisfied that it's correct. And curiosity, wanting to know more. These, I think, are 2 key values about finding out about facts and finding out for yourself. Don't just accept what somebody else, including Google, is passing on to you.
True. Don't just be a blind believer of anything. You have to verify, because like they always say, trust but verify. And to sum up,
today you have more tools than ever before.
Right, absolutely. And to sum up for all our audience and articulate, it's a curation of iconic events, people and institutions that shaped India and the country. That's what Indian Century is all about. It's available on Amazon. It's available at leading bookstores and with DK. And, to conclude, I have 2 questions for you, Anita and Siddharth, before we open up the quiz again to close. And those 2 questions are, tell us a little more about the tree of knowledge and your app, Digitalk. That is one. And the second is that a lot of young people are watching this, and a lot of them want to become writers, authors, right? And we also want to take parts of this into our school education program, because we started a program called the Rex Carmichael Global Storytelling Fellowship, where we are teaching young children and students in schools and colleges the art and science of storytelling. So I want to know, what is it that I heard about the research that you, kind of invested in putting the books together, and you kind of written several books, but What are your thoughts as an author? What are your insights and tips for young budding authors? What is the process that they should follow, whether it's a book of fiction or non-fiction, like what you and I write? So what are your thoughts about that? I write true stories of real heroes in my book. I follow a process of researching that person's life and then compiling that story together, right? So what is the process that you would suggest that the young students who want to be authors in the future follow?
Okay, Rosa has more personal experience of publishing than I have, because she was in India Today, and when it was printed, where it was leading
Yes,
news
of course.
magazine, and a degree in mass communications from the most prestigious institution of the kind, in Institute of Mass Communication.
Right.
So I'll let her go with the second one first, about the pragmatic aspects, not necessarily just of the content, of how you get a book published, right? The system we followed with several books, where you begin with the ideas, how you develop it. Rosa, you want to go on that?
I think there's 2-3 parts to it. How do you set about, being an author, or because I think it's either you're dealing with fiction. There's obviously you have to have a story to tell to begin with. I think there is a science behind, in terms of writing. There is a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. There is how the structure, the characters moving from one space to another space to another space. Of course, I'm not a novelist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think writing is like, again, that's not fictional writing, but when I was in India Today, that we were actually, how do you actually put the story together,
Right.
whether it's an event or it's a personality or set of things that are happening. I think the clarity of thought in how do you actually not get completely swamped by too many things. I think the kernel, the ideas have to be central, the characters have to be central, there's a lot of the storytelling, the plotting, so those are things that are very, very important to get into, in publishing side. I think, one is books are something that, obviously you need to, when you have ideas, you need a book, you need to get it out, you have to go out and think. If you're a filmmaker, like my son is, he's also, in fact, his primary thing is writing now. He's a writer for film and film scripts. And so, it's what medium are you choosing, what to be an author on, because now you have so many choices, but there has to be, at the bottom of this, there has to be clarity in what are you using, which is the medium, what is the space, that's important. But I think also primarily you have to be very clear on what you want to convey, what do you want to communicate. The publishing part is obviously the publisher takes it through and sees the merit of what it is or not is, whether it'll sell. And of course, they have to see it from this point of view of being an audience. Can I sell this? Can I not sell this? So I think that is, I mean, in a kernel, I'm getting swamped with too much happening, but I've just said it in a thing. But if Siddhartha has something else to say.
No, I think I think, and she actually pushed it with the publishers this time. The important thing is to have a clear idea, to present it effectively to a publisher, and enter. We've had the benefit of having very sound interaction with our publishers, with their editors and the rest of their teams on taking things forward. Our very first book was something called, I told you, was called the India Quiz, Inquisitive. Right. I showed you a glimpse of it, I think. That was with Seagull Books, and they got behind it completely in terms of design, editorially, everything like that. And some books have had more editorial inputs. With Penguin, we brought out the Mastermind series. And then one of our most productive associations, and commercially, our biggest sort of, seller has been with Encyclopedia Britannica, which is now Indianica, of course, Indianica Learning. So we brought out a series of general knowledge school workbooks, which broke the mold completely. And from class 1 to class 8, those are designed for those classes. But we had a very interactive relationship editorially, illustratively with those guys. So present a good idea, be open to a sound, constructive, interactive relationship, and the end result, make sure, because all aspects are important in getting it out. Whether it's for a television program where you have to work with the broadcasters and all sort of contributors and stakeholders and getting out something which works well, which has a certain quality, which has a certain level of excellence. The same goes for a book. In terms of the apps, that's the new frontier. And that we hope is our legacy, because we think that there is a huge sort of opportunity there of spreading a culture of fact-based learning, sharing, discovery. Because you learn through questioning. We want to put it into the educational field and otherwise. It's quasi-educational. I think the key to the right answers are the right questions. So there are some new properties which are coming on, not only in terms of apps, but they're also related to other platforms, or to a property coming out on a digital platform, something coming out on television, and it will shortly be announced in the next few months. But the idea is that people can play on an app. We have a couple of apps under development. The first one, which will launch at the moment, the working title is QuizzyTalk. People can log on to it. We'll show you a slide. There it is. That's the QR code. If people watch it later on Facebook, you just point your phone at that and get it. You can also get it on the web. You can also play the game on the web. So it's on Play Store. It's on the App Store. And you can just play it. You get a set of question answers every day. And occasionally, we have appointment quizzes where everybody together can play. And they're interactive. They have details. You can do you can review your performance. You can also benchmark how good you are. And you can keep trying to improve. So at the moment, QuizzyTalk is there, which is the prototype kind of app, which we're developing new things and new prototypes out of that. That's one of the things that I can speak of straight away. But we wanted to be the legacy. At the moment, it's in English, but it can come on in Hindi and be multilingual in due course. I've mentioned before, we worked with successful programs in 9 languages. So we'd really like this culture to spread not only in the country, but beyond as well. So there's an opportunity here for people to get involved, to interact. At the moment, it's in the test app mode. It's out there. People do join in and do feel free to come in with your sort of inputs and content. So in a nutshell, that's what's happening with our apps, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Siddharth and Anita, and to all the people in the audience. Please do download QuizzyTalk, and thank you for your insights on how to go about writing a book. For all the young wannabe writers over there, you have to do a lot of research. If you're writing a book about quizzes or writing books which are about true stories of real heroes like the Karma Kari series, you have to get the plot right. You have to get your theme right. You have to get your characters right. And of course, every plot has a hero, a villain, and a victim. And the villain could be the politics of the country, or the casteism, or the other socio-political evils that we face. And the victims are the people who get affected by it. So, you just have to get the plot right so that you can kind of present the book well, and then present it to the publishers who publish it, and then sell it to the audience. So to close now, Siddharth, over to you again for the quiz, the closing quiz, questions from your book. And
okay. Just a couple of more questions. We'll make it quick, because
yes,
I know you've been with us for a while, and thank you all for bearing with us through this conversation.
Thank you so much. I think people are still there because they're enjoying the entire conversation. We've gone on for almost 2.5 hours, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Some brilliant insights and factual entertainment out there. So over to you, Siddharth, to close with the quiz.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us on this forum, and of course.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
much. Anita and Siddharth. Thank you.
It was wonderful having so many people there, and your insight, Jerry, terrific. Very amazing that you've managed to do so much.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you.
Very interested to know what else you're doing and coming up with.
I was telling Siddharth before we started the conversation on Facebook Live about a reality program and live events that we are planning purely in the space of learning. It's
Yes.
all oratory experiences. We call ourselves the Mojosh Magnificent Seven. We are far from
Lovely.
magnificent, very broken people, but refuse to break down.
Yeah.
And since Siddharth gave us an interesting idea to call us the Unbreakables, but it's all about
Yes.
all about understanding your heroic
Yeah.
potential and inspiring others. So we've been doing this in the corporate events and conferences by TIE, Toastmasters, Rotary for the past 8 years. But now we are planning live public events, hybrids, which are for a live audience and people who would join in through the
Virtually.
internet, through virtually. And we're looking at large audiences of 100,000 plus in partnership
Lovely.
with Facebook.
Yeah.
I'll tell you more about that, and probably we can find synergies over there. So over to you to yes.
I think there, Jerry, some people had some questions. Aryan
Yes.
had written some questions. Is there anything?
Yes.
Do we
You want
have
to do it
time
before
to
the
take
last two
those
questions or after?
So one of the questions Aryan had was
Yes,
that,
Aryan.
what do youngsters need to learn to become good team players when they join an organization? I'm summing up his question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since you worked with teams, with varying teams, what are the values or the principles that they need to, the traits or habits that they need to kind of inculcate to become good team players?
I think, Aryan, some of the things that I already told you on the chat, but having led massive, big, huge teams as well as smaller ones, and of course running an organization, I think it's very important to not let yourself think that you have learned everything. I think to accept the fact that we are learning and we are constantly in the process of learning. Because once you're within a team, if one person starts saying, well, I know it all, that's the kind of person who will stop the rest of the team from learning. And I think that's very important to get that dynamic, because if you're enabling and you are saying, no, well, I really don't know this and I would like to learn this. And, there is no shame in telling people that you don't know something.
Very nice.
I think
Excellent.
that's very, very important, that, nobody is a know-it-all. People do tend to have that perception of themselves that, oh, I know it all. I think that person is stopping their own growth, apart from the people they are infecting along the way. I think that's very important, at least from my perspective. I think for me, no idea is small, no person is small. I have had kids coming straight out of college with me, and I've had experienced people working with us. So over so many years now, we have driven huge, huge teams of people coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, different, different skill bases. So I always, and I'm saying it from point of view of people who I hire, I always look for certain skill bases that I would like for my company. And I think one of the things that you are asking for it, what does it take for people to be a good team member? And I think one of the things is also that, to have the confidence to actually contribute something. Because I think a lot of times you're told, no, you are just coming new. I would rather ask the new people, do you have any ideas? I don't know how, they could be insignificant, they could be small, they could be something groundbreaking. For me, I don't know, because once one gets stuck in one's own set of people and set of space, you just don't know what are the other new ideas and fresh things people are thinking of. And everybody has something to contribute. I don't minimize the fact that people have different strengths. I don't put value on strengths that I feel are much more superior, or, I take the different strengths of each person and I use them and utilize them within the organizations in whatever way I can. And that's how it's worked. Somebody might come in and say, well, I'm a director. Okay. I'll tell them first thing, please learn to be a director by going through every process. So don't ever shy away from when somebody tells you, here's some work, no, but this is not my area. That's the last thing you should be doing.
Very
I think
nice.
you need to know that this is what I learned. This is not something I've got, in my stack of feathers, I need that. So
Excellent.
nothing goes of waste ever. No learning goes waste ever. You just don't know how you're going to be using it at whatever point of your life. It always comes back to you. So never shy of, anything that you learn afresh, anew, something you've never done before. Never shy from doing whatever comes your way.
Very nice.
Never have fallow time. And I feel that very importantly for people to just say, I'm just going to be on my phone the whole day. No, you can do whatever it is. There's stuff to be learned every single moment of your life. So go out and do it. So yeah.
Very true. And I completely agree with you, Anita. The smartphone can actually be smart if you use it for learning. There's so much learning content available free on the internet. But unfortunately, the smartphone is used as a weapon of mass destruction. And,
absolutely.
And what you spoke about, Anita, is what we call in learning circles as the pit crew mindset, which means that like the pit crew, where every crew member knows exactly what the other guy is doing because he knows the job that every mechanic in that pit crew is doing. You need to learn everything about every department, every division. You don't need to be an expert in it, but you should know how it works. And one of the biggest skills, what think tanks have actually kind of identified as the most essential skill of the future, is learning to learn. Because most of us go to school and college and we study because we're chasing a piece of paper called a degree. And to quote P. Sainath, he said, when people say they are highly educated is what, when people say they're highly educated, what they mean is that they went to an expensive school. And I qualify that a little more by saying most people are not educated, merely degreed. So your education actually starts beyond that degree. How do you learn to learn? And I'm so happy that you covered that, because it's about, and that's how you become a good team player, because you know exactly what the pain points of other team members are. And just today I wrote something, there's something called the Great Resignation, which is happening. There was a time in the old normal when mavericks or game changers were not really acceptable in the corporate sector. But the Great Resignation, which is happening in the United States, has
right now,
right? It's changed that, because now it's not about the boss saying jump and you say how high. It's about saying why. Because you need to question everything, and I think that kind of dissent, that kind of has to also be entertained in the organizations. So thank you for bringing that out. You've been in the field of HR. Anything you want to add to that, Siddharth, for our young leaders who are watching?
No, you put it, and the pit crew was an important sort of way of sort of expressing it. I think the openness, which Rosa spoken about, is very important, and the willingness to learn and to harmonize. That has to do with the role. Clarity is very important. To have a sense of the big picture, I think it's important, and then to be able to synergize. I firmly believe in all these fields, including in collaborative publishing ventures like a book, or whether it's television program or a film. These are collaborative ventures where people bring in their different sort of creativities and synergies. But you can have a fantastic music composer, you can have a fantastic performer, actor, you can have, everything needs to come together. The script, the look, the director of photography, sound, everything has to come together, and including the production guys and the spot boys. It's collaborative. It's being able to figure that out in a way that harmonizes and works towards the common goal as well as possible. So I think that to have a sense of the big picture, to know and to contribute your best. And your best is not just what you're told to do, but what you can bring the most to, and bring as well as you can. And to be honest, I think that's another thing, to be honest. I think I'm a fantastic singer, but I've never sung. Nobody else sings I'm a great singer. Hell, accept it. Figure out what else you can do and get on to that. I'm a writer. Nobody likes what I do. It's not seen the light of day. You have to put it out there. It may be excellent, put it out there, be willing to take the bouquets with the brickbats and go down that road. Or an actor or a director, whatever it is, you have to be able to listen, to absorb, the as I said, the worst criticism along with constructive one, and then chart your course on what you need to do. Similar in your work, take constructive criticism and grow. We all need to do that. I don't think anybody has a last word, including the person who's helming it. That too is a learning process. And I think this process throws up its own leadership and its own values and recognizes who's there, especially in the creative fields. At the end of the day, excellence and a quality and, define success. What we were saying earlier, we've never been businessmen or entrepreneurs. We've done the work and the funding has followed. And that still remains our approach. We are not, personality. It's not part of our DNA. Perhaps other people have it, and good for them. Do your work as well as you can, and things will follow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Siddharth. And the great life lesson that I derive from that is what we call the 9th habit in the Mojosh Inspirator learning, which is to seek, value, and celebrate feedback, because feedback is the multivitamin of champions for continuous improvement. What you call is constructive criticism. It could be constructive, it could be negative, whatever. I mean, take it as an opportunity for self-improvement. So thank you so much. Great life lessons from both of you, Anita and Siddharth. And to close, over to you for the final quiz.
A couple of more questions. You think people have the stomach for it? They'll stay through it?
Yes, two straight questions in the next 3 minutes.
Right,
So 9:30 we close.
Your time starts now. Yes.
Right. We are putting you on the clock now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put on the next slide, Karthik. Rosa.
You say it.
Where in the Indian
Fast.
capital were the first celebrations of Republic Day held? Right, the Central Vista is undergoing so many changes. Everything is happening. And of course, we've been watching the parade down the Central Vista forever. It's a magnificent vista, one of the best in the world. I'm not talking about what it's going to be. We still don't know what it's going to be, but it's there. Now, where in the Indian capital were the first celebrations of Republic Day held? That's the question. What kind of answers do we have? What do we think?
People are doing the Google.
Are you Googling too?
No. They're using the smartphone smartly.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry, where do you think it happened? You live in the NCR?
No, I was raised in Bombay, but
Okay.
I think it happened in NCR, in Delhi.
Yes, somebody says New Delhi. New Delhi, that's not good enough as an answer. At which particular venue?
Which particular venue?
Okay, I'll give you a little clue. It didn't happen down the Rajpath. What used to be called Kingsway before independence, then was called Rajpath. It didn't happen down the Rajpath, coming down the ramp from Rashtrapati Bhavan. So where did it happen? Any sense, anybody?
So there's
No,
Rajpath.
Ankit says Rajpath. It's not Rajpath. Anybody on Facebook?
Kolkata. Somebody said Kolkata. Somebody said Coronation Park.
No, Coronation Park is in Delhi University, what was called Kingsway Camp at one stage. A lot of the relics of the British Raj, the old statues and things are all there. That's north of Delhi University. That's not where it happened. That's where the Delhi Darbar incidentally happened of 1911.
There's another person, Basavaraj, who says it was Irvin Amphitheatre.
That is the correct answer. It's the Irvin Amphitheatre, which
Right.
we now know as the Dhyan Chand Stadium. For a long time, it was a national stadium. There you say Purana Killa, the ramparts of Purana Killa at the back. So Rajpath comes down past India Gate and past the pedestal where we are now going to have a statue of Netaji. Earlier it was George V. It ends at National Stadium. At that time, it was called the Irvin Amphitheatre after one of the viceroys, and who was then there when the whole New Delhi shifted in 1932 to the present place. And those are the Purana Killa ramparts at the back, because there wasn't Pragati Maidan, there wasn't the roads and things like that. So that's what it looked like. And the entire parade happened there in 1950 in that space. So that's the correct answer.
Basavaraj is the rightful prize winner.
Congratulations, Basavaraj, for getting that
Basavaraj
right.
Arjun Rao Mulge. Congratulations, Basavaraj.
Fantastic. You got that. One more question.
Final
We're going
question.
rapid fire mode.
Yes.
Last one. Right. This year, we don't have any representatives thanks to COVID, but representative of which country or other countries have been chief guests most often at India's Republic Day parade? Okay. This you should be able to arrive at. Not
So
Russia.
Vidhi
It's
says
not
Russia.
Russia. Vidhi says Russia is not Russia. Representative of which country have been chief guests most often at India's Republic Day parade?
Parvi Jain says Africa. Akshat Vedant says France.
You know, Akshat, France is one of them. So you get some points for that. There was another country. And Aryan says UK. Aryan, we can't give you another prize, but UK is also one of them. Let's see who else has said UK and France. Has somebody said both of them together?
Amit Kumar
Vidhi now
and
says
Ramanan Jha says France again. Richa Chauhan Pawar says France on Facebook Live.
Has anybody named two countries, both countries? Who's the fastest to do that?
No one has named two countries. There's UK. Okay, Amit Kumar has France and Basuvraj has UK.
All right. So it's either split or this is just for honor.
Vidhi Madhya says UK and
we'll
Germany.
The details.
Yes.
France and the UK have both had their representatives of chief guest 5 times at India's Republic Day parade. 5 times each, that is. Okay. The chief guests from these two countries, and that's remarkable. And that had a lot to do with the kind of attitude of our earlier leaders and rulers that, you know, we became part of the Commonwealth. India was a leading light in the anti-colonial movements across the world, in Africa and other parts of Asia and in South America too. A lot of people took inspiration from that and became that. But then we were open to amicable dialogue and a constructive dialogue with the country that once ruled us. So from UK, we had Prince Philip in 59, Queen Elizabeth II in 61, Louis Mountbatten in 64. And then from France, we've had Jacques Chirac, who was in 76 and 98, Nicolas Sarkozy in 2008, and Francois Hollande in 2016. So those were the two countries. Bhutan and Russia, or what was used to be USSR, we represented chief guests 4 times. Indonesia and Mauritius 3 times each. Brazil, Japan, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Philippines, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam 2 times each. We were supposed to have a bunch of representation from Central Asian countries. We were supposed to have leaders from 5 Central Asian countries coming this year, but the COVID Omicron 3rd wave of COVID has ruled that out, unfortunately. But hopefully you can watch that event on television as always and enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anita and Siddhartha, for sharing that slice of history and for all the brilliant insights and life lessons. It's been a delightful experience having this conversation with you, and I look forward to many more such conversations later in so-called normal times. I've never understood when human beings were normal though, but okay, so we're looking forward to the new normal now. Thank you for making the time, and it's gone on for 2 hours, but I think everyone's enjoyed it. No one's really kind of left. So any closing insights that you want to share with the audience before we close?
Just want to thank them for having been with us.
Thank you.
For these 2 hours. And hey, if you haven't checked out the book, do try and check it out. It's on Amazon, it's in Book Ventures, or maybe a friend has it or whatever it is. Do check it out. It's a book that we're very proud of being associated with.
And do get on to Digitalk if you have the inclination, you want to know, you want to play, and our new project on online. So I'm sure you'd enjoy that too.
Right. I've joined the Digitalk page, so please do join the Digitalk page and page.
That's on Facebook. Quizitalk is the app.
Quizitalk is
check
the
that
app.
out too.
Yeah.
Yes.
For information, go to Digitalk when we're going to put out whatever, and of course play Digitalk.
Excellent.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and
so
have
much.
a great evening, what's left of it. And thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for everyone in the audience for joining us today on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And
thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Please thank Major Bhaktawar for all the information. And
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you,
Siddharth.
everybody, for joining. Bye-bye.